What's up, YouTube? It's Biblical Truther. I've been holding off making this video, just getting some more information as I always do. But I want to share. I mentioned them in a previous video, but I want to share uh, a YouTuber's channel, Kurimeo Ahua, I think is how you spell his name or pronounce his name. But I told you guys long ago when I made the Jerusalem, Texas videos that that was only the beginning, but it's been being talked about. And one of the playlists on Kurimeo, this is his channel right here. But this No More Misunderstanding, I've been watching it for about 2 days, and it goes into great detail about um, the current state that we find ourselves in, or at least connects dots for me, at least, on the things that I've been shown and things that I've discovered and things that I've just heard. And it absolutely connects many dots. Also explains for me personally uh, kind of the situation we're in as far as the political stage and why they're doing what they're doing and why America seems to be that uh, main focus. But he's got tons of videos on this playlist about, you know, ancient Hebrews, the Israelites, who they were, um, basically about the Americas being the old world. And I'm coming to feel as though the Old Testament is not the Old Testament at all. It probably, at this point, and my wife said she's heard a couple people mention this lately, and I just mentioned it to her this morning, and that's when she told me she's heard like 3 people mention it, that it's starting to feel like the Old Testament was more of the uh, what's it called, the Inquisition. Also, when the Vatican went around doing what they did back in the day, you know, taking out whole nations and people groups and all pushing Christianity and forcing people to convert, kind of the same way the Old Testament is told to us, like the Israelites were doing, going around taking out all men, women, and children, animals, and such in certain areas, which kind of explains how people like the Mayans and the Aztecs just vanished. All the people vanished almost as if they were either killed off or disappeared. And I'm not one to think that they just disappeared. However, there are people on YouTube that are suggesting that we're in a simulation and it is more than capable of doing such, but I just don't believe that. Um, it's kind of looking like the Old Testament is more the Newer Testament than the New Testament is, if that makes any sense. Like the New Testament was actually from the ancient world, the stories of Jesus and whatnot. Uh, but you'll have to do your own research on that. You know, that's just kind of where I'm getting to in my understanding, my understanding of this world and how backwards it is. So, given that, let me get back off of this screen. Being in the backwards world, which is kind of way I titled this video. Is it Yahweh or is it Hawa, or however you would want to pronounce those four letters? Because if it's true that the Native Americans are the 10 lost tribes, then we've heard in many movies that, you know, kind of their chants when they're doing their dances, you know, quote unquote rain dances, and they're all, you know, according to mainstream Christianity, they were all devil worshippers, you know, because everything's the devil, right? But if you think about it, if they are the 10 tribes, and there's more than enough proof to suggest that they were, aside from the fact that they all spoke Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew was their writing. I've more than shown that on some of my own videos. But if you go to Kurimeo, or however you say his name's channel, he don't just cite sources, he actually reads from the books themselves that back that up. But anyway, uh, that's what he says, that that's who he refers to as God, Hawa instead of Yahweh, right? But isn't that what the Native Americans do in their dances? HWHY, kind of makes you wonder if, I really can't. God is too big to me to put a label on him as far as a name. But I want to go to Genesis 1 with you guys because I'm going to show you some things. And I'm going to tie it in with the Native Americans and their beliefs. But it's right here in the Bible. So let me get back to my screen share. And we're going to go to Genesis 1 using eSword. So get my mouse over to this other screen. So I was just reading through Genesis 1, doing some word studies and all. I've done it before, but not quite in depth like I should have. But I wanted to start in Genesis 1:6. In Genesis 1:6, and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." So I just started randomly clicking on words, seeing exactly what they meant. Well, this is the word in Hebrew for "let there be." It means to exist, that is, be or become, come to pass. So it says it's compare it to 1933. So I want to look that one up right quick, because anytime they show you another word or a root word, it's good to kind of search those things out. So it says Hawa, the primitive root compared to 183 in 1961, supposed to mean properly to breathe, to be in the sense of existence, almost like breathing, right? God breathed life into all living things, in my opinion, not just Adam, but all living things. And I'm going to show you that here shortly. And it's almost like when you go to breathe, if you're breathing kind of heavy, you almost make that sound. Oh man, like oh man, or when you're breathing out, you almost make that Hawa sound, right? Kind of Yahweh backwards, in my opinion. But let's look up these words right here. Let's go to Hebrew 183. It means the primitive root to wish for, covet, greatly desire, to be desirous, long, or lust after, which could be possibly. But let's go to 1961. And that's pretty much the same exact that they give us. Let there be. To exist, that is, to be, become. So, was it this one? 1933. Yeah. In the sense of existence, to breathe life in. So I'm just continuing on reading. And I get down here and I'm reading Genesis 1:11. And God said, let there, after he created the heavens and the earth, God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. Did you catch that in Genesis 1:11? And God said, let the earth, bring forth grass. So tying that back to the Native Americans, they believe in the Great Spirit, but they also believe in Mother Earth, the spirit of earth, right? So what is it saying here in Genesis 1? God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind. So he's telling the earth to bring forth these things, right? That's what I'm reading. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind. So that kind of plays right along with what the Native Americans believe, right? The Great Spirit, God, telling the earth to bring forth grass and herb yielding seed. Let me get this off of there because I keep hitting these numbers and it keeps blocking half my screen. So, do you agree so far that God, the Great Spirit, told the earth to bring forth these things. It's right here in the Bible. This is not a Mandela effect, which I'm going to discuss the Mandela effect here in just a minute and my new understanding and possibly what the Mandela effect could be. So let's go down a little bit further. And Genesis 1:14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons. We'll get to this word in a minute. Actually, I'm gonna do another video on signs and seasons, so I might just let that one pass for now. But let's go on down to Genesis 1:20. And God, the great spirit, Ahua, the breath of life, right? God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So again, just as the Native Americans believed that the Great Spirit, that there is a spirit of earth, Mother Earth, if you will, and that everything has spirit according to them, the wind, the waters, So right here in Genesis 1:20, and God said, let the waters are the ones who bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly in the heavens, so forth and so on. So again, if they are the 10 tribes of Israel that were lost, who were kicked out, sent to, be lost for however long that was supposed to be for, then these people, it seems to me, reading the Bible for myself, it seems to me that they had it figured out, and they knew that this new Yahweh, which is Hawa backwards, was just that, a backwards God, a jealous God, a vengeful God, all these things that Yahweh says he is throughout the Old Testament, right? But it says right here, this is not a Mandela effect as far as I know. And God said, he said, let the waters bring forth these creatures, right? Just pointing this out. But right here is what really got me. Genesis 1:21, and God, the great spirit, if you will, created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, So let's look at the word created. So the great spirit created. Right here, it says, primitive root, absolutely to create. Okay. But what is this word here in parentheses? Let's check that one out. Apparently contracted from H226 in the demonstrative sense of entity, properly self. Could that be referring to consciousness, individuality for each being, each living being? Because that's what I understand, and why they put it in parentheses. Is it because God had commanded the waters and the earth to bring forth all these things, and it was God, when he created, he wasn't actually bringing them into the existence, he was giving them a sense of entity, properly self, consciousness? It's what it seems like to me, because the great whales and the living creatures, even if the waters would have brought forth these things, which it says right here, continues on in the same verse, which the waters brought forth abundantly. So it's telling you right there, the waters brought these creatures basically into existence. But they were just creatures in existence until God created, or this word right here, ayeth, if that's how you pronounce it, I'm not for sure, but in the demonstrative sense of entity. So basically, for me, that means consciousness. He gave these creatures the ability to move about, be conscious, do things, rather than just being like a figure in a museum, if you will. So again, the Great Spirit is what gives us life, right? I did that video, the image of God, and I was talking about how he was plasma, and how the squatter man, which is all over Native American wall art, as well as Aztec and Mayan art, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. All the ancient world has this symbol on every continent. So, which that brings me to the Mandela effect. We've had this Bible since 1611, right? When King James removed all those other books that talk more about different types of entities that were here that I believe were genocided throughout the ages by probably these Christians who were going on these crusades, right? So the stories that we've been told and how they've basically trained us to understand them or interpret them, could it be that the Mandela effect, seeing how we live in the backwards world, could this Mandela effect be the Bible changing back to what it originally said? I'm not suggesting that it is, but in ancient writings, and Jay Dreamers talks about this a lot, and I know a lot of Christians are like, oh no, he's a heretic. Well, at this point, I'm pretty much a heretic too. So if you're listening to me, that's great. So I guess we're all heretics, right? But he talks about these ancient writings from all these tribes around the earth, because he covers the plasma apocalypse, right? So when the plasma apocalypse happens, this plasma enters our world, which they call the Great Red Dragon, or the Great Spirit, who's coming to clean this world up of evil people. And he believes that depending on what frequency you're vibing at, if you're a negative, more of a negative person, that plasma is going to seek you out and more or less take you out. And ain't that what the Bible kind of says that God does in the end? He cleans up all the evil out the world. So if they call it the red dragon, or these spaghetti monster in the sky, the Starro, and all the Marvel films, or whatever, whoever made Starro up, could that be what God truly is? Because I believe the squatter man is the symbol for the Great Spirit, the spirit that comes in and cleans up all these evil people. You can go watch that video. I'll get into it a little more in that video, but showing you pictures and whatnot. If you don't know what the squatter man is, it's basically a toroidal field, and you can produce that yourself. I'm not into electromagnetics or anything, so I couldn't tell you how to do it. But I know there's people out there, even on YouTube, that are doing these experiments where they make this toroidal field that looks identical to what the ancients drew on all these walls and cave art and all these other places. That looks exactly identical. So back to my new theory, because this just came to me today, that the Mandela effect, could it be that all these Bible changes are not to throw people off, but is actually going back to the original word of God, where it talked about dragons, where it talked about him, resembling a dragon? If he, and I'm not saying he's a dragon, I'm just saying if he is that spirit, that plasma that comes down into our world that creates this toroidal field that all these ancients were drawing on every continent of the earth, um, could it be? Could it be the word of God coming back? Because if we're in backwards world, it says that Yahweh is going to create a famine in the land in the end days, and not a famine of food or drink, but of the word of God. So if you believe that Yahweh is God, the Almighty, the Father, the Creator, the beginning of all things, then you will think that the Mandela effect is changing the Bible for an evil purpose. But it's starting to look to me like the Bible changes are changes going back to what it used to be. Because I had someone comment the other day about mentioning that there are unicorns in the Bible. And just because, the elites use a unicorn in their symbolism and their coat of arms and all that, I believe that very well could have been a creature that existed at one time, whether evil or not, I can only speculate, and everyone else can only speculate, because at this point we've been lied to so much. How can you trust anything? But could it have been a very powerful type of animal or being, conscious being like us, because I think it's the book of Jasher or Jubilees that talks about the dog-headed people and how they were priests of the Most High, and Abraham was doing trading with these entities or beings. Um, so all this ancient artwork that's been coming up the last couple of years, a lot, it's contributing to Egypt, which is so evil. Everything's got to be evil, right? That all these pictures are coming up of, the wild men, covered in hair, kind of like the Sasquatch. Um, there's the dog-headed people, the bird people. There's so many different entities, and you can go watch. I've heard that Lord of the Rings is actually basically the true history of the world, and all the beings that are depicted in there, from the elves to the dwarves to the hobbits, which we know are probably the pygmies. And there's plenty of proof about the pygmies. We got skeletons of fairies down in South America. I think even Central America, Mexico has some of those been found. Some of them look demonic, what we have been taught to be demonic. Um, but I'm just here to tell you, not everything is the devil as we've been taught, uh, which is going to be my signs and seasons video. It's going to kind of entail some of that, what we've been taught and why we've been taught. Uh, I'm going to go into some stuff about some alchemy, which ties into medicine, uh, astrology, which is just all the ways that they have written this stuff into the Bible, but yet keep us dumbed down so we don't know what they're doing. Because the Bible does say what happens on earth happens in the heavens, right? But a lot of people think literally the heaven, but it's actually the heavens, where I started off with reading, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and in that firmament, where's it at? Right here, Genesis 1:14. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons. And you see the word on signs, H226. So when we were talking about God creating, and in that word, in parentheses, the H853, well, look right here. Apparently contracted from H226, which is the same as signs, right? Let's just take a sneak peek at that, see what it's talking about. A signal, literally or figuratively, as a flag, a beacon, a monument, an omen, a prodigy, evidence, a mark or miracle, a sign, a token. So they've trained us to believe that all these pagan cultures that were looking into astrology um, are evil. But doesn't it say right here that he put those up there for signs and seasons? So aren't we supposed to be paying attention to him, right? But I'll get more into that in another video. But I just wanted to share this with you, man. I thought it was pretty crazy. Where's it at? Right here. Created. Now, whether or not this was just a word they chose to throw in there from the original Hebrew, because why would they put this one? This word, H1254, means to create. But why is this over here in parentheses? You don't see that too often in a concordance. Was that the original word, and they just threw this one in there and knew that that was the word for create? And the Great Spirit breathed life into the great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly. Saying right there that the waters brought them forth. He commanded the waters to bring forth all these animals, just the same as he commanded the earth. Let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, and fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, and whose seed is upon, or is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. So it's a massive lie, man. It's a massive lie. They've done taught us that, you know, I'm not saying go out there and nature worship, but I am saying, as the, Native Americans do, we should be taking care of this earth. We should not be worshiping the earth. However, we should be showing great admiration to the earth, because after all, if it wasn't for the earth, we wouldn't have grass, we wouldn't have herb yielding seed, we wouldn't have fruit trees yielding fruit, we wouldn't have anything to sustain life if it wasn't for the earth. So it's right here in our own Bibles. But what preacher have you ever heard tell you that? It's all God created all this, but he created the heavens and the earth and the waters. Apparently the waters, unless it was just for this cycle, the waters was already here or out there, or I'm not sure about that. That'll be a deeper study, I reckon. But yeah, it says, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So where'd the waters come from? Just curious. Was it just all water? And, or was this after another cataclysm, if you will, say a reset, like from Lemuria or Atlantis? And this is just a retelling of the original creation? Or is it a new creation? Whichever one it is, it says right here, let the earth bring forth all these things that are going to sustain life. So, and also the waters. Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures. And I mean, we can go far deeper. The word abundantly, the primitive root to wriggle, that is by implication swarm or abound, breed, bring forth, increase abundantly, in abundance. Um, yeah, so I don't know. You tell me, guys. I'm going to put a link to Kurimeo's channel in the description, but I'm going to leave it with that, man. I think these Native Americans are not evil at all. They're not Quetzalcoatl worship, which that's a whole nother rabbit hole, and the feathered serpent and all that. So you can go watch that playlist about the Moors. The first 4 or 5 of them are telling you who the Moors are, but he also explains about the feathered serpent. And there's many more videos there, many other playlists that actually get into the whole feather thing and why the Native Americans wore feathers. So I think we need to pay more attention to what these people were doing. Just as the Hopi prophecies explain, in the end times, people will start showing up at their reservations wanting to know and learn more about the old ways. Well, are they old ways, or are they the original ways? Because what I'm seeing now in Genesis 1 is that this was all the original ways. Their ways were the original ways of the Most High, the true creator of all things. So tell me what you think, man. Tell me what you think. And why is this in parentheses, the word created in 121? That is odd to me. But in a demonstrative sense of entity, that's to me, that's HWHY. And also, before I get off of here, the movie Avatar, this was actually pointed out when the movie Avatar first came out. They called the Great Spirit the mother of earth, Ahua, which is actually Yahweh backwards. So were they just putting it right in our face? I think they were. I think they were. And I guess it depends on your dialect and how you pronounce words, as far as where you're from, how you use the English language. But it can be pronounced many different ways. So I'm gonna leave it with that. Looks like one of my twins just got up, so I'm gonna go take care of her real quick. So love you guys. Check this stuff out, man. We got to get deep with it. We've been lied to on a massive scale.